In this video, we will tell you the untold stories of the Playboy Playmates of 1975 while showing you some of their rare photos. Barely 3 years after Playboy hit an all-time high in sales with its best-selling edition in November 1972, it sent another striking sensation with its Playmates of 1975. What made them special and where are they now? How did these talented models just vanish after being celebrated in one of the world's most iconic magazines? Stay tuned to find out what happened. The first Playboy Playmate of 1975 we are going to cover in this video is Linda Kimball. Linda was Playboy's magazine Playmate for January 1975. She started as a part-time photo stylist in the magazine's West Coast studio until she was asked to pose for the centerfold. Before this time, she was featured in the pictorial Heady Stuff in July 1974. Kimball also made the cover of the magazine in August that same year. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Linda Kimball's career was that although she had the start many models fantasized about, the world kind of forgot her after her business with Playboy. Not many people know this, but Linda took acting classes at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute and had her film debut in an uncredited part in the 1976 crime drama film Bobby Joe and the Outlaw. In her defense, Linda admits that she never intended to make it big in the industry. She only signed up for acting because it was fun. An acting class just seemed like the right thing to do in Los Angeles, Kimball revealed. Like a Berlitz course in a foreign language, it helped me understand and communicate with the natives, and besides, it was a lot of fun. Her centerfold was photographed by American photographer Mario Casilli. Nobody knows what Linda Kimball has been up to all these years, but from her confessions to the media about her love for the sea, she probably owns a house somewhere near a big body of water. And just like Linda Kimball, our next Playmate also had something going for her before she had a chance encounter with Playboy. Laura Mischk was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1953. Laura was a cheerleader until she finished high school. Desperate to try something new, Mischk's first contact with Playboy would be in a drugstore in her neighborhood, where she picked up the Playboy Bunnies magazine. It was love at first sight, as her next action would be to send a letter out with a Polaroid of herself. Weeks later, she was in New Orleans with the job of her dreams. Her passion rewarded her, and she became the Playmate of the Month in February 1975. Unfortunately, she lost her job as a bunny shortly after because the studio was temporarily closed. So she decided to explore the acting industry. Mischk starred in a string of relatively successful movies in the 70s, including A Shadow in the Streets, where she played a prostitute, Hard Times, French Quarters, and Mardi Gras Massacre. Afterward, her career took a turn and she started working as a reporter for the newspaper, the Miami Herald. She also did some work for the Rocky Mountain News. Laura Mischk has been married twice. The first was with a New Orleans policeman, Eddie, but this didn't last as they divorced shortly after they got together. She met her second husband, Joe Watt, during her reporter days. They got married sometime in the late 90s and have been together ever since. Her centerfold was photographed by Richard Fegley. The next person on the list is Ingrid Sorensen. Former Miss Norway and Miss Europe, Ingeborg was her parents' miracle child who would take them from the slums of Oslo to the Hollywood suburb of Bel Air. She had a very humble beginning. Her father was a cab driver, while her mother managed the family drugstore. Sorensen Playmate's journey began during her tour in Japan, which was used to promote Norwegian fashion designers. A photographer suggested that she explore Hollywood. She agreed but never planned to stay. But after a few weeks, Ingeborg moved permanently. She was featured in a bunch of TV commercials, and it wouldn't be long before she started drawing attention to herself. By 1975, she became the Playboy Playmate of the Month in March, with famed photographer Mario Casilli in charge of her centerfold. The model didn't hide her displeasure with the industry, confessing that most people she met were not like the people back home. She said that Hollywood was filled with artificial people who only used you for their gains, and once that was over, they forgot about you. Ingeborg dabbled into acting, but didn't stay long enough to feature in any movie she could brag about. She had minor roles in films like Top of the Heap and Kramer vs. Kramer. The closest she ever got was a guest role on an episode of the TV show Beretta. Victoria Cunningham was the Playboy Playmate of the Month in April 1975. She started as an airline stewardess but was fired after she got drunk on duty with her friends. Desperate not to continue life in her home city, Beaumont, Texas, Cunningham moved in permanently to Los Angeles, and luck shone on her. Within a few weeks, she was the club favorite in a new Playboy club in LA. We don't know if Cunningham was ever married, but we remember her TV producer boyfriend, Noel, with whom she shared an apartment in Beverly Hills. One of Victoria's favorite things to do was shooting pistols. According to her, it all started as a joke until she became a master of the .45 and .345 Magnum. The model did succeed in keeping a low profile after that, although she did try acting with a secondary part in the lackluster serial killer thriller Play Nice, but that never made it big. Her centerfold was photographed by Mario Casilli. Bridget Rollins is the next Playmate on the list. This American model was ushered into a life of trouble. Dropped out of school at age 15, was married at age 17, and got a divorce a year later. Growing up, Bridget described that she would watch her parents argue all the time while thinking it was all just an act. She recounted running out of home several times because her mother was not giving her enough love and attention. Rollins never made it past high school before she dropped out. She believed that school was a waste of her time. In her own words, school was just a place where kids tried to fight each other all the time, and the teachers did nothing but try to keep them in their seats. So she got into modeling school and got a few gigs after some time, but that was not what she wanted. All her life, Bridget's eyes have always been fixed on the big prize, and nothing was worthwhile to her unless she went all in, and this became the reason for her divorce. She and her husband wanted different things. He wanted her as a stay-at-home wife, but Rollins dreamt of the spotlight. So she filed for a divorce, and they went separate ways. Interestingly, the American model doesn't hesitate to slam back at anyone who calls her a divorcee. "I want to be a light and happy person, and labels like that drag you down," she explained. Bridget got training as a bunny, and May 1975 became the year for her. She died in February 2011 after a 4-year battle with cancer. She is survived by 2 sons and a daughter. Azizi Johari. Azizi Johari was the Playboy Playmate of the Month in June 1975. Born in New York City on the 24th of August 1948, Johari spent most of her life in the spotlight. In high school, she was popular because of her singing group, the Marvels, and after that, she got a job as a stewardess with United Airlines. The turning point of her life was when she posed for the 1973 poster Supernatural Dream, and that would secure her employment as one of Sammy Davis's dancers. Her performance in this new role, together with her unique complexion, secured her the Playboy Playmate spot. Although she had wanted to be an actress all her life, Azizi was only able to star in a couple of relatively successful movies, including A Raisin in the Sun, Black Girl, and Mischk. Her centerfold was photographed by famous American photographer Ken Marcus. Lynn Schiller. Lynn Schiller's transformation from a poor country girl to a Playboy favorite continues to remain fans' favorite. She started out early as a singer and dancer, and afterward pursued an acting degree from the famous Lee Strasberg Theatrical Institute. Lynn made her film debut with a small part in the surfing epic Big Wednesday, and would have her first lead role in the 1980 horror film Humanoids from the Deep. She got in touch with Playboy during her modeling days, and in July 1975, she was featured as the Playboy Playmate of the Month. With very little success as an actress, Lynn decided to call it a day and focus on other things. Not so much is known about her other activities, but she currently lives in Hyannis, Massachusetts. Her centerfold was photographed by Larry Dale Gordon. Lillian Mueller. It's a long way from being a simple farm girl to becoming the most decorated Playboy Playmate of the Year in the history of the publication. Lillian's parents separated when she was only 2 years old, but in the face of unseemly odds, the young actress was determined to secure a brighter future for herself and her family by giving herself to studies and spending all of her time buried in her books. The actress grew up to be an intelligent and stunning young lady, and after high school, she worked as a page 3 girl for The Sun. It was in this job that she met photographer Suze Randall, who convinced her to pose for a nude. A few weeks after her shoot, Hugh Hefner had her photos on his office table, and the actress was on her way to Chicago to shoot a centerfold. This made it easier for her to transition to acting on days when modeling was not so favorable. All through her career, she has been featured in over 30 movies and TV shows, including Fantasy Island, Once Upon a Spy, and Remington Steele. Lillian is a seasoned writer who promotes her vegan lifestyle with her books. She credits her youthful looks to a healthy lifestyle. The model was Playboy Playmate of the Month in August 1975. Messina Miller. Messina was Playboy magazine Playmate of the Month for its September 1975 issue. She spent most of her life juggling her modeling career, real estate, and being a bookkeeper at her stepfather's flying school. The American model loves exploring the natural environment and would even transform her indoor spaces to houseplant jungles. Her centerfold was photographed by William Figge, Mel Figge, and Suze Randall. Jill DeVries. First, she wanted to be a concert pianist. Then she studied to be an elementary school teacher, but at the end of it all, she turned out to be a Playboy model. Jill DeVries had a lonely childhood. She lived alone with her family in their farmhouse with acres of empty land surrounding them. Jill was a cheerleader for 8 years while in grade school, after which she proceeded to Illinois State University for a degree in elementary education. Life took a twist, and she was never able to finish. Jill managed a boutique store before her big break came in September 1975. After this, she starred alongside actor Tom Cruise in the 1983 comedy film Risky Business, and so made Playboy history as the first Playmate to have signed gatefold in the magazine. Jill adores her celebrity lifestyle, but she misses the simple and serene environment she grew up in. "I just can't handle big city life, not even for one afternoon," the model confessed. "Cities are just too busy, too hectic. People are so involved in their little worlds, and city folks always look so darn sullen and unhappy." But apparently, this was something she could live with, as she never returned to Wickhart to settle permanently. But time and time again, as her schedule permits her, our actress enjoys exploring the great outdoors. Her centerfold was photographed by American photographer and architect Dwight Hooker. Janet Paula Lupo. Janet always knew that school was not the place for her, so she stopped even before she could finish high school. She took a job as a receptionist and switchboard operator. Her parents protested, but Janet was known to always have her way, so they let her continue. One thing led to another, and soon she started working as a bunny at the Playboy Resort in Great George. Lupo always knew where to draw the line, so she would refuse all attempts by Playboy photographers to get her to pose for a nude portrait. Photographer Pompeo Posar somehow was finally able to convince her, and the only thing in their way was for Janet to convince her parents. Her mother was easily bought in after she made the promise to use her earnings from the Playmate to take care of some family bills and buy them some nice gifts. But her father was not impressed. He was just not comfortable with nude photos of his little girl all over the place. According to Janet, she said this to him before he changed his mind. "I'm no virgin," she said to him. "I don't go around screwing everyone, but I've been to bed with a couple of guys, and there would be another. So he'll be seeing me with no clothes on, and I won't be getting a modeling fee." So, in November 1975, Janet Lupo posed for the centerfold. At age 67 in November 2017, Lupo lost the battle to cancer. She is survived by her son Joseph, her brother John P. Lupo, and her sister Margaret. Nancy Lee Brandy. All Nancy Lee Brandy needed to qualify to pose for the centerfold was a pretty face and a stunning physique. With no prior modeling experience, Nancy was spotted by Playboy photographer Richard Fegley, who immediately presented her with the opportunity of a lifetime. She was at that moment attending a blackjack table at Lake Tahoe. Brandy had a simple childhood in the rolling hills of Pennsylvania, and as soon as she was of accountable age, adventure became her lifestyle. Together with an old friend, the model would decide to go cross-country rambling. Their first stop was Williamstown, Massachusetts, and afterward, Lake Tahoe, where she got her Playboy contract. As a Playmate, Nancy was offered occasional promotional trips to Japan, and that was where she decided to pursue a career full-time in modeling. How did that turn out? Well, no one ever heard of her afterward, but we sure wish her well in all she is doing. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other videos of beautiful ladies from the yesteryears. As always, thanks for watching.